Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Another episode of Poppin' Opinion, where we talk about the hot topics of today, give you our not so popular opinion, wrap it in some facts, and we leave it at that. Now, today we are going to talk about the Haitians at the border issue. I saw the story, you saw the story, but as we always know, there's more to the story than what the media portrays. So we're going to get into that right now. So for this conversation, I want to ask some questions, get those questions answered by gathering some facts, and ultimately coming up with a not so popular opinion. So the first question I want to ask and answer for you all is why? Why are the Haitians running? Why are they ending up at the border? Why are we even having this issue? So let's take a look at the why first. So first, let's take a look at what's going on in Haiti. Now, besides poverty and crime, as most third world countries have, in July, their president was actually assassinated. And as we know, behind any presidential assassination, there's always controversy or conspiracy theories. And, Haiti is not without their theories as well. But roughly about 2 weeks after the assassination, a de facto leader was announced in Haiti. But of course, because of this, Haiti continues to struggle with lawlessness and gang violence. Now, I also found out in August, Haiti was hit by a major earthquake with a 7.2 magnitude, and it killed over 1,000 people and ravaged their already fragile cities. Now, this is actually a replica of an earthquake that hit Haiti back in 2010, which killed over 200,000 people and displaced over 1 million people. And they have never fully recovered from that yet. So basically, the living situation in Haiti, it's either you die by violence or you die by a natural disaster, which, of course, as a human being, we feel for that situation. But these things have happened months to years ago. So why the sudden rise in crossing the border? Let's get into that. So, doing my research, what I found was that the whole border issue stems around the U.S. Title 42 policy of expulsion of migrants. Now, most people, like myself, have no idea what this is and what's really going on. So, I will break it down for you as I interpret it. So basically, Title 42, it allows the U.S. through the Surgeon General to close the border to those from foreign countries seeking asylum from violence or harm. And this is based on the scare of potential disease or contamination from the people seeking the asylum. So basically, it's just saying that the United States can turn away anyone from a foreign country that they feel is disease ridden or are bringing possible disease or contamination to the United States. So, our former president, Donald Trump, enacted an interpretation of this law when COVID broke out, enforced the border crossings closed, or he made it very, very difficult for anyone to be granted entry into the United States. Now, of course, the argument is that the law was being used inappropriately, and it basically discriminated against migrants or immigrants of color. Now, when Biden took office, he set out to rescind this law or order and open back up the borders and properly interview and manage those that were seeking asylum. But from what I gather, a misinterpretation happened on the part of the Haitians or those fleeing. They felt that the United States had relaxed the immigration policy, period, and that it was now a free for all, which was not the case. And as a result, The Biden administration is having to do some backpedaling, and they are receiving backlash from both sides of the fence, which it ultimately seems to me that they are having to side with what Trump was trying to do with Title 42 in the beginning to clear up this border issue. So now that we know what's going on, or we know the why, let's ask ourselves, what does this have to do with me? How does this issue affect me personally? Now, research has shown when you have a large group of people migrating to an unfamiliar place, it increases the crime and causes a lot of friction. Now, when people hear the word crime, they get all worried. Oh my God, the immigrants, they're going to rape, they're going to rob, they're going to pillage the village. No, that's not the case. That's not what we're talking about. That's not the only factor when it comes to crime or the increase of crime. The crime issue is broader than just that. Yes, desperate people in desperate situations will resort to desperate measures and commit crimes. So I'm not saying that the immigrants are not going to commit crimes, because yes, there are some that will. But the other side of the coin is that there are people that prey on desperation. There are some people out there who their only mission in life is to take advantage of others. So it's not just what the immigrants will do when they're here, but it's also what will happen to them while they are here. They could possibly end up in a worse situation than the one that they're fleeing from. They could possibly end up dead. Now, crime is just one argument. The other argument is that the immigrants will cause a strain on the United States economic resources. You have to keep in mind, you have to house these people, feed these people, educate these people, employ these people so that they'll become productive citizens. Where do we get the resources to do all these things? Now, it's my opinion, and my opinion is directed more towards those bleeding heart activists who say, don't send them back, let them stay. I say, why don't you open your doors, open your home? Why don't you take in a family of Haitian immigrants and let them live with you? Let them use your resources, your house. Use your personal resources to feed, house, and educate them, and see if it becomes taxing on your household. Have you ever tried to take in a friend that's jobless, homeless, has limited resources, and they're just bringing, not only are they bringing themselves, but they're bringing their children and their problems into your household? Have you ever had that displeasure? Have you ever tried to help a family member that was desperate or in need, that didn't have a home, didn't have a job, didn't have any resources? Have you ever tried to take that person into your home and use your household resources? You're feeding them, you're housing them, you're trying to motivate them to either educate themselves or get a job. Have you ever had to do that for someone or a group of people at the same time? Have you ever had to do that? Because if you have, then you know how taxing that can be, especially when you don't fully understand what's going on with their situation. It's easy for someone to make a comment on what someone else should do when they don't have to deal with the consequences or make any sacrifice. Now, here's what I compare the issue to, because it's not just about the Haitians, it's about immigrants in general. It's a huge issue, period. So let's say you're living on your block, your street, your neighborhood, and you have a neighbor 3 houses down. And one day this neighbor decides to break into your house. And not only does the neighbor break into your house, but she also brings her 3 children, maybe a sister. They're all in your house. They've all broken into your house. And you come home and you're like, what's going on here? And the neighbor says, well, look, I'm fleeing from a desperate situation. I've been in a domestic violence household for the last 5 years. I'm tired. I'm fed up. I need to leave. And you know what? I want to live here. Really? Really? So now let's look at the situation and break it down. Number one, you didn't ask. You just took it upon yourself to come into my home and tell me what you want to do. No, boo-boo, that's not how we get down here. No. Number two, you broke the law. It's illegal for you to break into someone else's house to seek refuge just because of your situation. Just because you're fleeing a bad situation doesn't mean you can break into someone's house and decide, this is where I want to and I need to be. Is that not what the Haitians are doing? It's illegal to cross the border and decide you want to stay here versus there. It's illegal. And number three, when you break into my home and set up shop, not only do you bring yourself and your children and your family, but you also bring your problems. And now you want me to help you solve or resolve your problems. And I ain't signed up for that. And that's also exactly what happens when the migrants come here to the United States. Now we have to solve issues. Number one, most of the time they don't speak the language, so we have to educate them on how to communicate with us. Number two, they're homeless. They're coming with the shirts on their back, the shoes on their feet. So we have to find a place for them to rest their head. Number three, they're hungry. They need to be fed. They need to be nourished. There's a whole slew of issues that come when a person flees from another country with nothing. Now we have to give them something. But we have to remember, people, these individuals are breaking the law. What they're doing is illegal. The laws are put in place not just to protect us, but to also protect them. The laws are put in place to protect us from the issues that they may bring, and it also protects them from the predators that may prey on their desperation. Now, I do want to pause here and say, I am not insensitive to the pictures and the footage that I've seen on the news of the handling of the Haitians by the Border Patrol or the men on the horses. I'm not insensitive to that issue. But what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to just, ask nicely? Excuse me, Mr. Haitian or Miss Haitian, I know you've traveled many, many miles barefooted through rough terrain and swam across oceans to get here. But could you please kindly go back to where you came from? What's the expectation here? What are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to handle the situation? We all can criticize, we all can say what they should not have done, but put in that situation, what do you do with someone who barely speaks the language, someone who is breaking the law, and someone who is determined to do what they set out to do? What is the expectation set for the Border Patrol? What are they supposed to do? Now, it's a fact that these people are fleeing from a country or countries where human life means nothing. But they know they're coming to a country, the United States, where we value human life and the preservation of human life above anything. They know this and they're using that to their advantage. Because you got to think about it. Where they're from, they could be stoned, hung, or killed for some minute crimes. Here in the United States, you can illegally force your way in and you'll get a pat on the wrist and just sent back home. And you can do it again and again and again with minimal recourse. So as harsh or as hard as this opinion may be, I have to side with those who say, send them back. We have enough homeless people here already. I see them every day. We have enough uneducated people. I talk to them every day. We have enough people without jobs or trying to find employment. We don't need more people to strain and stretch the limited resources that the United States already has. So, people, why don't we try to fix our problems first before we try and fix the problems of the world? And I must say, before I go, it frustrates me, infuriates me how the media tries to make everything a black and white issue. They're showing these pictures of these, I don't know, 4 or 5 white men on horses, 10 or 20 Haitians, running for the border. And they're saying, oh my God, look, it's black, it's white. And it's not a black and white issue. It's a worldwide issue. These Haitians are not the only ones that are trying to migrate to the United States. There are thousands of immigrants from other parts of the world that are doing the exact same thing that these Haitians are doing. So don't let the media dilute the situation and make it about black and white, because that's not the issue. The bigger issue is about the economic resources or strain that the immigrants put on the United States, and we have our own issues to resolve. We can't fix the world. Let's fix home first. So in closing, I want to ask a few questions and make a few statements, because everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a bleeding heart until it's time for them to actually do something. So I ask you, are you willing to sacrifice your personal resources to help others? Are you willing to open your home to a family who doesn't speak your language, who has nothing but the clothes on their back? Are you willing to take those people in and feed them, house them, make sure that they're educated, make sure that they can get a job? Are you willing to do that? And if so, how long are you willing to do that? Another question, why are we so quick to help a stranger, but we won't help our own friends or family members that we know are in need? Well, that's all for me today, and hopefully I've entertained and educated you just a little bit on this subject here, or maybe even changed your perception on the whole issue. Now, before you go, make sure you like the video and make sure you subscribe, because there's always something to talk about, y'all, and I got plenty to say.